Another lesson is start with the end in mind. I personally have used that a great deal. What about you?
Yes, I really do believe that's true. I always kind of had a target. I knew where I was going, and they were not always short-term goals. They were out when I first came to university. Certainly, one of my goals was to succeed in the classroom. Then began to say, I'd really like to stay around here. I like this place.
Yeah.
I want to get tenure. Okay,
Right.
What does it take to get tenure? Well, that means I got to start doing research, and I'll get involved in some service, and I'll be a valued member of the academic community. And then all of a sudden, George Kosmetsky resigned. I had been his associate dean, which, as many people say, is a mouse studying to be a rat. And so I was ready to take that job on when Pete Flawn called me and said, would I be acting dean? I said, sure. And my goal was not to be acting dean. My goal was to be dean.
Right.
But I didn't get involved in any political shenanigans. And by that I mean I'm a strong believer in, while you can be ambitious, you shouldn't try to do it in a political manner. So how many calls did I make to ask people to call Pete Flawn? Zero. What effort did I make to have unusual communication with him during that period? Zero. And my feeling was I was going to be there if they wanted me.
Right.
And if they didn't want me, that was fine too. But I did hope they wanted me. And I told a little bit of a fib to all the chairmen, all the people who reported to me. I said, I'm not going to be dean permanently, but I'm going to be dean for a year. I'm not acting dean. I'm going to be dean for a year, and then we'll get a new dean. Well, I wanted to be dean, but I was not going to do anything other than just do the best I could.
Right.
And that worked out. And when I became chancellor, the same thing happened that way. I was just literally, after Hans Mark resigned, I got calls from 5 of the 9 regents asking me if I would do that job. And I said, I'll do whatever you want me to. And I was happy to do it, but I've also been happy to stay as president.
Right. Well, yeah, the idea of starting with the end in mind helped me so much in my career. And it comes from the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
There you go.
Okay.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
the idea of starting with the end in mind comes from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I use that so much in my career when I had to figure out something. If I would just figure out what is the end and work backward. You can
Right.
see the path if you'll start at the end and work backward.
Well, we went through that numerous times in fights with the legislature when I was chancellor. And a lot of people just hated having to work with legislature. I found it fun, partially because it was almost a military game, in the sense you knew what your target was, you knew what you were trying to conquer.
Right.
And then you had to bring all these different forces together to try to make it all happen.
Right.
So that was a way to accomplish what we were trying to do, and it worked very well. One I'll never forget, which was one of the largest ones we ever had to do, is we had to pass a constitutional amendment. That's hard, John.
No kidding.
And you have to get 2/3 in the House, 2/3 in the Senate, and then a vote of the people of Texas. And what we were trying to do was get a constitutional amendment that would give us the ability to manage our funds as a total return fund, not paying out. Up until then, we had to pay out all the dividends and interest, and we couldn't pay out any capital gains. Well, this really made it very difficult to maximize the value of the endowment.
Right.
And so we worked there was our goal. Our goal was to get this done. Who was our partner? Texas A&M. Remember, Texas A&M had 1/3 of the endowment. We had 2/3. Remember, they chose first, so they had 1/3. We had 2/3 of the endowment.
Right.
That's humorous, John, if you think about it.
Yes, it is. From the University of Texas standpoint.
From our perspective.
Right.
And I'm teasing, of course. And Aggies were a great partner with us. They really were. But we had one problem with A&M. And the problem was when we got ready to go out, we got the bill passed, 2/3, got all that done, got the most powerful people in the House and Senate to carry it for us.
Right.
Very strategic, backed all the way back up. You know, who are the most powerful people that no one will jack with. We got them to
Right.
carry the bill for us. Then time came to raise money for an advertising campaign to get the people of Texas to vote for it.
Right.
And most amendments pass, but you never know. So the problem we had was we had to raise about $300,000. And I had to do that personally because the university can't do that. That's against the law. So, but we split it, 2/3, 1/3. A&M had 1/3, we had 2/3, that's fair. And UT was able to raise our $200,000 very quickly. A&M struggled. They had a new chancellor, and I think he was uncomfortable with this. And after about a month and a half, I finally said that I would donate the $100,000 to A&M under one condition, so they could get their piece. I would personally donate it. But what they had to do is they had to issue a statement saying that the chancellor of the University of Texas was funding A&M's portion.
Wow.
And within a day, they got their $100,000 together.
I bet they did.
Unfortunately, my bluff was not called,
Right.
and I didn't have to pony up $100,000 for A&M.
Motivation.
I knew I wouldn't have to,
Yeah.
but it was a way to stimulate them into a little bit of action.
Very clever.
Well, it worked.